Hello friends, let's understand what is a global exception handler. How does that look in UiPath Studio and how do I use it, right? All these things we have to understand in a clear and easy way. So please continue with the video if you would like to really understand how it works, and I will make it easy. Myself Rakesh from Expo Automation World channel. In case you have not subscribed to our channel, please do subscribe. And please do like all the videos that you're watching. That will help our channel. So please do like all the videos. So with that, let's get started. So the very first thing to learn anything is to have a look of that activity, right? So let's have a look. So how do I open global handler? You will go to new and then you will click on global handler. So this is the step number 1 for you to understand how global handler looks like. So new and global handler. So the moment you do this, this window will prompt up and you need to click on create. Okay, so before you do that, click on project. If you are in the activities panel, click on the project and you see your blank project will generally have two things. One is main.xaml and the other one it will have a project.json file. Okay, so now when you click on new and click on global handler and click on create, okay, the name is given global handler. Let me click on create. The moment you do this, what would happen? There will be another XML file which will auto generated called global handler.xml. Okay, so this you had a look of how do I create a global handler. Then I need to understand what is it, why I have to use it, right? That question will come to our mind. Okay, so let's get back to our PPT and let's understand what is global exception. So global exception handler is a workflow. When I say workflow, it is a sequence of activities. Okay, so it is a workflow designed to determine the behavior when encountering an execution error at the project level. So this makes it slightly tricky to understand. So it says it determines the behavior. What do you mean by behavior? Let me go back to the UiPath Studio. Let's say I have created a small project and during the execution of the project, any of this activity can throw an error. It can throw an exception, right? So generally, I have already taught you to handle an error. There are so many mechanisms. One of them is try catch block. Okay, now imagine your activity has got hundreds of, your project has got hundreds of activities. So what I mean, you have got 100 plus activities that you have used in a single project. Now definitely nobody would like to surround all the activities in a try catch block, or there will be situations where you don't want to do it or you cannot do it, or you don't want to put so many try catch block, right? So in such cases, because you don't expect an error to come from all those activities, so you are very selective and you select which are the activities where you need try catch block and you design the entire project. But still there are chances out of this 100 plus activities that you have used, right? All this activity, any of this activity can throw you an error in your entire project. This can throw an error, this can throw an error, anytime, anything can go wrong. In such cases, you would like to handle globally. Your entire project, wherever it throws an error, there should be some mechanism to handle this. So that mechanism is called global handler. Understanding? So what I'm doing, I'm applying a global handler mechanism to my main.xml project. So if this is my project, I'm applying or linking the global handler mechanism to my project. So when I say I'm linking, that question would come, how are you linking? This is a separate sequence, right? This has got a couple of activities which I'm going to go through one by one. But this is a sequence of activities, but you are saying your global handler is a mechanism to handle all the errors coming from main.xml. So there has to be some link. Yes or no? There has to be some link. So how do I know if there is a link? All you do, open this project. So I'm going to open file location. Okay, I'm right clicking on main.xml and I'll click on open file location. So now I will go to that project path and I am going to read the project.json file. So this is the project.json file. So you can always open in Notepad. Okay, in case it is, if you double click on it and it does not open, then try to open it in a Notepad. Okay, so I'm opening with Notepad. Now if you see, this project.json file has got all the details. So the project the project name of the project, right, description, and then what are the dependencies it is using. Then if you scroll little bit down, you will see your project is also linked with global handler.xml. exception handler has been linked. So if you say, what if Rakesh you delete it, will it go? Yes, let's have a check. So now it is there, right? You can see the project.json file has got global handler. So let me first close this, minimize this, and let me unlink this. So you can just right click and remove handler. Okay, you can delete that also. I'm just removing it. Okay, so if you right click and remove it, okay, and then save it, go back to the same path. So I'm just removed it and I'm going back to the same path. And if I open this, now you will see the exception handler has been removed. So this is the section where it had that global exception handler that has been removed. So let me again enable it back. So I will right click, and if I have to enable set as global handler, so I'm enabling this again. Okay, so I have enabled it. So the moment I enable, let me go back to the project.json file, and now if I scroll down, you can see this has already been added. So this is how your global handler is linked with your main.xml, your main project. So any error in any activity that appears, right, that can be handled by global handler. So there is a clause, okay, when I'm saying any error, I am mentioning any uncaught error. So let's say your main.xml file has got try catch block. So anyways your try catch block is handling it. So if it is already handled and the error is not rethrown, right, if it is already handled, and then it will not go to global handler because you have already defined a mechanism to handle that error. Only uncaught errors, I mean those errors which are not caught. So this is the rule, okay, you need to remember this. One global exception handler per project. So for one project, one global handler you can link. Okay, you can have only one global exception handler. Point number one. Point number two, uncaught exception will be redirected to exception handler. Only uncaught. That means if you are using a try catch block, that means you are already catching and handling that error through try catch. So that error will not be handled by global handler. Only uncaught errors. Okay, these 2 points should be very, very clear. Okay. Now you will say, if I'm using a try catch block and inside the try catch block I have used a rethrow activity. So if you are rethrowing the activity and there's nothing to hold it, then the global handler will catch it and execute it. So it is not been handled. If the error is not been handled by try catch, and you are or it is handled by try catch and you are using an activity called rethrow, that means it's throwing the error up. So that time even global handler can catch and handle it if you are not handling that within your main project. So these are the two areas you should know. Okay, after we know these two rules of global handler, the next thing I also would like to understand, what are this and how does this work? So for this, let's go through a very simple example. What I'm doing, I'm using two type into activity. In the first one, it's saying hello world. The second type into activity is saying hey Rakesh. So these are the two activities. So what I'm going to do, let me keep a notepad open. Okay, so this is my notepad. So let me delete everything. So all I am doing, I have indicated, I've used a type into activity, and I have, so let me do it from the beginning so that will be easy. Okay, so I'm using a two type into activity. So let's go to the activity panel, drag and drop the type into activity, and I'm going to click on indicate on screen, and I'm indicating the blank notepad. Okay, and here I want to type, let's say, I say hey or hello world. Okay, I've typed it. Now the next thing, I'm using another type into activity, and again I'm going to indicate on screen, and I'm going to indicate the blank notepad, and here I'm going to say hello Rakesh, let's say. Okay, so these are the two activities. So if I simply run this, what would happen if my notepad is blank and I run this? So what would happen in the notepad is going to type both the words hello world Okay, hello world, and next is going to type hello Rakesh. So these are the two words. It is typing perfectly fine. What if the notepad is closed? So there is no notepad now. Now if I run this, okay, now if I run this, because there is no notepad, there's supposed to be an error. Okay, there's supposed to be an error. So remember, any activity that you're using, the timeout period is 30 seconds. So it's going to wait up to, that is the default time, up to 30 seconds. Within that 30 seconds, if it is not able to find the notepad and it's not able to execute the type into activity, it's going to throw me an error. Now you will ask me, can I reduce the time? Yes, we can reduce the time. I'm going to show you. So let's wait for this error to appear. Okay, now you can see a big error has appeared. So the main message of that is cannot find the UI element. So it's not able to find the UI element. Okay, this is quite clear. So let me reduce this. So one thing I was saying, how do I reduce the execution time? So the timeout, I can make it to, let's say I want to make it to 2 seconds. I don't want to wait until 30 seconds. I want to make it 2000 millisecond, which is 2 seconds. Okay, similar way for this activity, the second activity also, I am making timeout millisecond to 2000 milliseconds, which is nothing but 2 seconds. Okay, so now if you execute, so it will throw an error very quickly. So why? Because my notepad is not there in the background, right? The notepad is not there in the background, and it's going to throw that error pretty quickly. You can see the error has already appeared. Okay, so now when such error appears, how the global handler become a savior, how it is going to help you, is something we need to understand. So now already we have linked the global handler. So the global handler is already linked. If you right click, you can see it is already linked. It is asking to remove. That means it's already linked. Okay, so what would happen when this activity is throwing the error, cannot find UI element? Okay, and there's no try catch block to handle it. And even this activity can throw an, so n number of activities can throw different errors. So when an error is thrown, what would happen? Because the global handler is linked to your main project, the global handler will catch it. It will catch that error. The error will be redirected to this sequence. So from here, any error comes from any of the activities. Let's say this activity is throwing an error. This will redirect that error to global handler. So this global handler sequence is going to handle it. So the very first thing which is there, which is going to log an error. So it is going to log what kind of error has come. So you saw when I last run this project, it had logged, you can see the big, it has got a very huge error message which has appeared. So let's say I want to make it slightly smaller. I don't want the entire one, I just want the message. So I'll simply say error info dot exception dot message dot toString. Now the question comes here, what is error info? So error info is a variable. So let me show you. If you go to this arguments page, so error info is an argument or a variable, right? Error info, this is going to handle all kind of, if you see handler argument, so it is going to hold that error information. So error info is a variable which is created, and you are asked not to delete. So there are two rules. Okay, you should not delete these two variables, or these two arguments should not be deleted, because they are designed for the global handler. You should not modify them, you should not make any deletion, otherwise your global handler will not work. So remember this point. Okay, not to do anything with this two. Just remember, this is a variable which is going to handle all kind of error information. So what I am doing here, using that variable name error info, this is a template, pre-made template. You don't have to do much changes to it, but you can do wherever. I'm going to show that. So here I'm going to make little change. So error info is the variable, and I'm saying error info dot exception dot message dot toString. So it is going to capture that error. Okay, now there is a if activity. Just below this there is a if activity. If you see on the right hand side, it's a if activity. So in the if activity, what it's saying, error info is a variable dot retry count. So for this to understand, I'm going to use a message box. Okay, and here in the message box, I want to see the error count number. Okay, so I'll use the variable error info dot, this is additional just to show you how it works. So I'm saying error info dot, then I'm going to say retry count dot toString. Okay, so it's going to capture. So retry count is the expression for you, error info is the variable, retry count is the expression, and I'm converting it to dot toString just to understand what is the error count now. So the first time when the error appeared in this activity, type into activity, that will be redirected to global handler, and the global handler is going to tell me now the retry count is 0. Then it will come to the if block and it will say the retry count is 0 because it just now it appeared. So you never retried it, right? So the retry count is 0 and it is less than 3. This is a condition which is pre-built. I want to make 5 tries, 6 tries, you can make the changes to it, but by default 3 tries is what is there in the template, and you have all the option to change it. So let's say the retry count is 0 the first time the error has appeared, then this condition will meet, right? Retry count 0 is less than 3, it will come to then block. Now in the then block, what is happening? Error action. So error action is again an expression that you need to remember. So you can make a note of this. Error action dot retry. I can write error action. So all these 4 or 5 options that you see, continue, ignore, retry, abort. So all these options I can write error action dot retry, error action dot ignore, error action dot abort. So error action dot continue. So this is the expression that you need to remember. Okay, you have to write error. So what is happening here? When that error appeared in the first activity, when the type into activity was getting executed, it found an error that the UI element does not exist to type. The notepad is already closed. So when that error came, this will be redirected to global handler, and the first thing is going to happen is it is going to log that error and is going to show, this is my own activity that I have typed, and is going to show the retry count, which will be 0 for the first time, then it will increase, right? 0, 1, 2. So that happens automatically. Now below this I am mentioning error info dot retry count is less than 3, then error action dot retry, then you should retry the same activity. So let's execute this once, so it will be very, very clear. So let me execute. Okay, so when I'm executing, let's look at the output. Okay, so go to the main, and from here let me execute. So let me run it. I'm not debugging, I'm directly running it. So when I run this, we need to keep on checking the output. Okay, let's see the output. So I'm executing, I'm running it. So what happened? This type into activity, right? Because the notepad is closed in the background, it thrown an error called cannot find UI element corresponding to the selector. It thrown an error. So now what would happen? It went to the global handler and it is showing the retry count. I have put my own message, right? Just to understand how it is linked, and now it is redirected to global handler, and this message box is coming from the global handler because I have put a message box just to understand how the flow is working. Even you can try that. So now you can understand clearly, because the activity, this activity has thrown an error, it came to global handler, and from global handler it logged the error, and then it is showing this count. So the retry count is 0. Now what would happen? It will now move to the if activity, and here it will say the retry count is less than 3, condition met. Then it's going to retry the same activity. So now if I click on OK and go to the output again, you can see it has retried once again and it has thrown the error. Do you see? The second error has again came. So the retry count once tried, then again it will retry the same activity. So it has tried the second time. So this first error is coming from your main project. These two are also coming from the main project, but it is retrying. First retry, second retry. Okay, and the third one is the third retry. So the first one, understand this, the first one coming directly from the project, and then it went to global handler, and the global handler we have said it should try for 3 times, less than 3. So it is trying 3 times, 1, 2, 3. Getting it? So after the 3 times it has attempted and is still failing, because the notepad is still closed, it's still failing. If I click on OK, what will happen? Now let's understand the second block. Okay, So let's understand this second block. So I'll go to global handler. Now after it retries, because it has written error action dot retry. So this is the expression that you need to remember. So you don't have to write anything, you just leave as it is. So it will automatically retry any kind of activity. It could be type into, click, whatever the activities which is throwing the error, and it came to global handler, it is going to retry the same activity. Okay, so it is retrying after 3 failed attempts. It tried 3 times and 3 times it has failed. Then what you want? So then I want it should try the second activity. So I have another activity. Let's say it has failed 3 times. It's okay. Then it should try the second activity. The project should not end. So what I will do, I'll go to the global handler, and here in the global handler, the else activity, right? After trying 3 times, it will come to the else block. So here in the else block, I can use any of this. Continue, ignore, retry, abort. So I want to what? I want to ignore. Ignore means what? The exception is ignored and the execution continues from the next activity. So let's make a change, and I'm going to say, hope you guys are understanding this. So error action dot ignore I have said, and clicked on OK. So what would happen now? Once it tries the first activity for 3 times, it will go to the else block, and I have said error action dot ignore. So it will ignore this one and it will go to the second activity. Okay, so how do I know it is going to the second activity? Let's put a message box somewhere here, and I'm saying moving to the next activity, moving to the next activity. Okay, so that if it flows from here to here, this message box should show me that it's moving to the next activity. Okay, so let's do this. So here I have entered ignore. Ignore means what? The exception is ignored and the execution continues from the next activity. So let me save it and let me again run it. So I'll not debug, I'll directly run it. And let me go to the output. So what would happen this time? So this first, understand this, the first error has come from your main project. Okay, then it is getting redirected to global handler, and from global handler this error count has come as 0, retry count has come as 0. Okay, then it will retry. After retrying, how many times it will retry? This is my first retry. So the first, then second, and the third. Okay, the third retry. This is the third retry done. After that, it will go to the else block, and in the else block, moving now I have said error action dot ignore. So it has moved to the main project and it is moving to the next activity of the main project. So next activity is message box, where it is showing me moving to the next activity. I have typed the message box, right? So it is executing this activity. So generally, if you don't have it, your entire project will fail. Your entire project will abort, right? So you have a mechanism to choose your behavior. You want to retry, you want to continue, you want to ignore, you want to abort. So you can choose the behavior of the project. So that is the meaning of global handler. So now it has come to the next activity, then it will flow to the third activity. Again the type into activity, right? So the third activity also will throw an error because type into notepad. So it has thrown the first error, and this error is coming from your project. Then it has gone to the global handler, it will try it the first time, then it will try one more time, second time, then it tried the third time, and then that's all, right? There is no more activity, so it is stopping. So understanding this is what the global handler is. If you have gone through the entire set of sentences I am trying to explain, if you go through that entire exercise once, I am pretty sure you will have a complete understanding of global handler. In case you missed something, you skipped the video, you could not understand, I would request you to start from the beginning and do not skip it. Just slowly listen to me and try to do along with me, and you will understand this global handler. Spend those couple of minutes and you will be able to understand global handler in a pretty good way. I hope this video will help you, and please do like the videos. I request you, please do like all the videos that you're watching on our channel, and please do subscribe in case you are a new visitor to our channel. Thank you guys. You guys have a great day. Take care. Bye bye.